You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the Resistance. We are live Tuesday, December 18th. I'm Dean Obeidallah. Yesterday was my birthday. If you still want to give me a belated birthday gift, you can follow me on Twitter. That's a great gift. At Dean Obeidallah. Or if you're on Facebook, facebook.com/Dean of Radio. I don't ask for much. I'm a simple Jersey guy. Follow me on Twitter. I'm needy. Like the page on facebook.com/Dean of Radio. Or send me an email. That's fine too. Dean@deanofradio.com. I'm always very happy to hear from people, hear your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions about the show, especially going into the new year. I really, and I say this with all sincerity, would love to hear from listeners about what you'd like to see more in 2019. You know, I want this show to reflect what you want to hear more of. And again, Dean@deanofradio.com. Before we get to the heavy news, a lot of stuff today, as you know. Here is Colbert last night on Stephen Miller. As you know, from the gargoyle in the Trump administration, he was on CBS, and here's Colbert making fun of him. Here's clip one.
Now, folks, we haven't heard a lot lately from White House senior advisor and man who someday neighbors will describe as a quiet guy kept to himself, Stephen Miller. But this weekend, Miller emerged from his secret lair for an interview on Face the Nation. He started out by enforcing the administration's strict rules on holiday greetings.
Good to have you here in studio.
It's great to be here. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you.
Miller's not exactly a people person, but he's trying to make a connection. Merry Christmas. What a warm holiday feeling we mutually have, parumpa-pum-pum.
And by the way, if you thought it was mean for me to call Stephen Miller a gargoyle, it's only because he's a gargoyle. He's a horrible, vile person. I'm not going to get into him big time, but when he was in college, he was involved in anti-Muslim organizations that ginned up fear of Muslims who were students with him at Duke University. He's horrible, and obviously he is the mouthpiece and the brain on some level of Donald Trump to try to implement a white supremacist immigration policy, and that's what this is. And then here was Colbert and something very funny about Donald Trump calling Michael Cohen a rat in his tweet the other day. Here's clip two.
One thing that really got Trump's goat was the plea deal Mueller struck with Trump's former lawyer and man whose doctor just delivered the bad news that he's going to live through this, Michael Cohen. Trump tweeted, "Remember, Michael Cohen only became a rat after the FBI did something which was absolutely unthinkable and unheard of until the witch hunt was illegally started. They broke into an attorney's office." First of all, they didn't break into his office. They had a warrant and they knocked. They're allowed to come in. "That valet just stole my car after I gave him my keys. Get him, get him." I like that he calls him a rat. Innocent people always describe their accusers as rats. Like Jesus said to Judas in the Garden of Gethsemane, "Way to rat me out, Judy. You're going to sleep with the loaves and the fishes, see?"
So obviously today was a big day in terms of all of this rat stuff and Donald Trump, and that was Michael Flynn. In the third hour, Laura Coates, who I'm sure many of you know and like great deal. She's a CNN contributor. She's a former federal prosecutor and hosts a show on Urban View every day. It's going to be on the third hour for a big chunk of that to break that down a lot. I'm happy to talk about the Flynn issue as well, and I think that it touches on something else bigger. And the issue I want to talk about a little bit, and then if you want to talk about Flynn, I'm very happy to. I mean, I followed it closely today. But Donald Trump is feeling the heat, and he's freaking out bigly. I mean, and I say that I look at his Twitter feed all the time. And days when he tweets a great deal about witch hunt and it's all collusion is fake and all that, it's generally something's about to happen again. We saw that with Michael Cohen. We saw it with other guilty pleas that kind of surprised us. And he was doing that today. And I don't know if it was just because of Michael Flynn was going to be sentenced. And if you don't know, the sentencing was put off till March. Remarkable things happened in the courtroom. Unfortunately, there were no cameras allowed. So if we had the audio of it, we would just play that and that would be stunning stuff. But something else happened today that made it clear to Donald Trump that the crap just got real. And here's what it is. Today, Donald Trump announced he was closing down his Donald J. Trump charity. Not just voluntarily. He's doing that because the New York Attorney General is investigating him, and that's one of the things they wanted to do. So it's closing down in coordination and in concert with the New York Attorney General. And this is actually really important, and it intertwines with Flynn and a lot of other things, even Donald Trump and Michael Cohen, what went on here. And let me remind everybody what happened with the New York Attorney General and the Trump Foundation, because it's really remarkable in a horrible way what Trump did with this foundation. And it shows the criminal mindset and the crime family leader that Donald Trump is. And it really makes it clear that Donald Trump knows everything and runs everything that he's involved in, including potentially telling Michael Flynn to lie. And that's why he's not calling him a rat. I know Michelangelo was saying that, but there's more to it. So let's remind everyone exactly what happened with the New York Attorney General lawsuit, because ultimately it might very well be the new AG in New York, Tisch James, who just won, is going to be sworn in next year, who might be the first one to file an indictment against Donald Trump. Because she's not federal. She's not controlled by the DOJ regulations that do not allow you as a federal prosecutor to indict a sitting president. Well, what's going on in New York and what we heard more today, I think you're getting closer to that point. So here are the facts, just to remind everyone. I'll go through it a little bit here, a couple of minutes. I think it's worth it to remind everyone exactly what happened. So in June, the current New York Attorney General, Barbara Underwood, filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump personally, against his foundation, and everyone on the board of directors, which includes Trump. It includes Donald Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump. The petition filed by the New York Attorney General is essentially a complaint, and said wasn't a criminal complaint, by the way. It was a complaint seeking certain relief that was civil and penalties. It alleges a pattern of, and this is in quotes, persistent illegal conduct occurring over more than a decade by Trump and the board of directors. That includes extensive unlawful political coordination with the Trump presidential campaign, repeated and willful self-dealing to benefit Trump's personal and business interests, and violations of basic legal obligations for nonprofit foundations. In essence, the Attorney General is saying Donald Trump is using this not-for-profit New York City corporation, charity, to benefit himself. That's what he's saying. We all know charities are supposed to help others. They're not to help you. That's what you start a private corporation for. Charities are to help others. I actually have a New York not-for-profit corporation, so familiar with these laws, because the New York Arab American Comedy Festival that I've been producing for 16 years, when we incorporated 16 years ago, we did it under these laws. We're not a charity, but we're incorporated like Trump organization, this one was, under the not-for-profit laws here in New York. And they're pretty strict. And it makes it very clear in these laws that this Trump Foundation, and the board of directors, and this is the exact wording in the petition by the Attorney General, the corporation, no part of the property of the corporation shall be diverted in any manner, directly or indirectly or otherwise, to the benefit of any member, trustee, director, or officer of the corporation, or any private individual. That's a great summary of what a charity is in New York. You're not supposed to benefit the board of directors. You're raising money from the public to help others. Everyone gets it. You don't need to be a lawyer. We all know that's what a charity is about. What did Donald Trump do? Well, first of all, and this is really interesting to get to later, as the Attorney General described, none of the foundation's expenditures of Trump Foundation were approved by its board of directors. They found the board existed in name only. It did not meet after 1999. Who did everything? Donald Trump himself. He made every decision alone. In quote here in the petition, in the absence of a functioning board, Mr. Trump ran the foundation according to his whim rather than law. And I want to remind people, because a lot of times there's a sense in the media, Trump doesn't know what's going on, or he's an idiot, he's a moron. No, the words are diabolical, criminal, dangerous. Donald Trump knows everything. He ran this charity. Everything was through him, his whim. And people go, oh, the funding was his money. In the beginning, so everyone knows exactly the facts, is not partisan. In the beginning, the Trump Foundation was funded by Donald Trump. That ended, though. After 2008, he did not give any money to the charity. So after 2008, for the last 11 years, this charity has been funded by people in the public who are donating to something to help people not named Trump. Not named Trump, to help a charity, to help people. That's what charities do. Where did the money come from? Because there's millions now in the account. It came from the public who like Donald Trump, and a big part came from, and I want to take everyone back to February 2016. Even if you don't remember the exact date, of course, you're going to remember what happened. Donald Trump got in a big fight with Fox News and didn't want to do their debate. So what did he do? He had a rally and a fundraiser to help raise money for veterans. I think people remember that. He raised $5.6 million in tax-free donations from the public, from good people who wanted to help veterans out. What did he do with the money raised? Well, some of it, a few million, he gave to veterans groups after he was shamed in the media because he had not done that. What else did he do? And this is not my allegation. This is literally in the petition of the Attorney General. And keep in mind, it is against the law, against the not-for-profit laws, to do anything to benefit yourself personally. You're giving a charity to help others. What did he do? And again, this is in the actual complaint. He made a $100,000 payment to settle legal claims against his Mar-a-Lago resort. What does paying off a lawsuit against Mar-a-Lago, his country club, have to do with a charity? Zero. That's one. $158,000 he paid to settle legal claims against his Trump National Golf Course in 2008 from a hole-in-one tournament. He was sued. He spent $10,000 at a charity auction to purchase a painting of himself that was displayed at Trump National Doral. That's the closest to maybe, that's in the complaint, that's the closest to maybe actually being a charitable contribution. He gave the money to a charity. It was a picture of himself. He also used the money for his campaign. And this is ridiculous. At least 5 $100,000 grants or checks he gave to people, to groups in Iowa, when? In the days and weeks immediately before the February 1st, 2016 Iowa caucus. So there's Donald Trump collecting money from the public and literally spending it to give it to organizations in Iowa. Quid pro quo in his mind, I'm going to give you a $100,000 grant and you're going to deliver people to the caucus. That's what Trump was doing. These are all in the complaint. These are all allegations. Have they been proven? Not yet. But Donald Trump's lawyers filed in the last few months to have this entire complaint dismissed. What happened is November 23rd, the little fanfare, a state judge in New York ruled that the lawsuit by the New York Attorney General against Donald Trump personally, against his family, Ivanka, Don Jr., could go forward. And then things moved quickly from there. Donald Trump realized this was not going to go away easily. So his lawyers began negotiating with the Attorney General in New York, Barbara Underwood. And today, the Attorney General, not Donald Trump, announced Trump has agreed with them to shut down his charity and give away the remaining money to organizations they mutually approve of that have to be real charitable things. Here's what else she said, though, and this is stunning. They continued their investigation, and it revealed, quote, a shocking pattern of illegality involving the Trump Foundation, including unlawful coordination with the Trump presidential campaign, repeated and willful self-dealing, and much more. The Attorney General is seeking restitution of $2.8 million and has asked a judge to ban the Trumps temporarily from serving on any boards of any other New York not-for-profits. But it gets worse for Donald Trump. And that is because Tisch James, Letitia James, what we call her Tisch James in New York, who was our public advocate in New York, who I have a lot of friends on our staff who helped me when I was trying to put up posters in New York City on the subway, and the MTA that runs the subway said, you can't put up funny posters of Muslims. Well, Tisch James and her office got involved and helped us with that and made a big difference in that. Tisch James is coming in, and just a week ago, before this was even announced, she made it clear, quote, we will use every area of the law to investigate President Trump and his business transactions and that of his family as well. Specifically, she outlined what they're going to go looking at. Any potential illegalities with his real estate holdings, anything about the Trump Tower meeting in June 2016, because it happened in New York, examine government subsidies that Donald Trump has received, and whether he's in violation of the Emoluments Clause. And they're going to continue the probe to the foundation. She said, quote, we want to investigate anyone in his orbit, meaning Trump's, who has in fact violated the law. Here we have Tisch James coming in, ready to go, who did a former federal prosecutor, former public advocate, coming to the AG's office and is going to use the AG's office in a way that's going to be remarkable. Now, you might ask, is any of this criminal for what Donald Trump did? That's a great question you would ask. Here is the reality. So far, the Attorney General, who's in office now, Underwood, has referred what she calls apparent violations of federal law to the IRS and the Federal Election Commission. So this is getting uglier for Trump by the day. And for the New York Attorney General to actually, that office themselves, file criminal complaint. In New York, it's kind of weird. They need a referral, it's called, from a state agency or law enforcement. Well, legal counsel to Governor Cuomo, our governor in New York, said in the statement, the state is ready to provide a criminal referral to the Attorney General so she can pursue criminal charges beyond the lawsuit. And they said that a couple of months ago. And this is getting uglier by the day. So this means here a few things, a few takeaways here. And it intersects with Flynn as well. We've talked about this endlessly on the show, that the Department of Justice has 2 memorandums saying that federal prosecutors cannot indict a sitting president. That absolutely does not apply to the New York Attorney General or any state prosecutor. That only applies as a federal regulation based on the DOJ memos, which are not, even if you read the memos, it's not based on the Constitution. It's not based on a Supreme Court decision. It's based on the idea that it's too distracting to a president to deal with a criminal indictment while they're in office. I say that's ridiculous. I say that's a license for someone to be in office and commit crimes and know, I'm going to get away with it. I'll run the clock out on the statute of limitations. And it destroys the very essence of what our system of justice and law and order is supposed to be about. We're a nation of laws or we're not. They always said that on the right. We're a nation of laws or not when they want to put up a monument to white supremacy. But when it comes to the leader of the GOP being a criminal, and it's clearly, folks, this petition by the AG, it is a series of illegal actions by Donald Trump to use a charity to benefit himself over and over, politically and business-wise. He ran it all himself. And that is really relevant in the big picture here. Trump is the head of a crime family. And for decades, he's gotten away with violating the law and just paying fines. That's why he doesn't know what's going on. That's why he's freaking with Robert Mueller. He doesn't get this. Usually he would just pay a big fine. He's done this before. He did it when the DOJ pursued him over discriminating against African Americans who wanted to rent. He entered a consent order and said he'll never do it again, but there's no penalty, any penalties whatsoever. And why it's relevant to me that in this AG case, she makes the allegation to the Attorney General that Donald Trump ran it completely on his own. That it was him, it was like a piggy bank, and he knew everything. It's relevant because Michael Cohen is saying that he violated 2 finance election campaign laws at the direction of Donald Trump. He said he was directed to do that. And Donald Trump goes, I know nothing about what Michael Cohen did. He just does what he does. I didn't know he was going to do that. That's ridiculous. I never direct him to do that. Well, the picture you get from the AG's complaint, and this was filed in June, is Donald Trump very personally involved. Every detail, every decision of his charity is Donald Trump. So when you're questioning the credibility of Trump or Cohen, both are liars. But who do you believe in this circumstance? Well, this gives you a hint that Donald Trump's MO, his work in the past, is to control every detail of things that he thinks is important. I would imagine paying hush money to 2 women so they don't come forward right before an election is pretty important to Donald Trump. But there's more. There's another incident, and I wrote about it over the weekend for the Daily Beast. Let's go back to 2000. Donald Trump investigated by the New York State Lobbying Commission. This time, he set out to torpedo the efforts of Native Americans to open casinos in New York State. Because at the time he owned casinos in Atlantic City, and he thought it would hurt them because they'd be right outside of New York City in a region called the Catskills. To accomplish the scheme of destroying the chance of the Native Americans to get New York to approve them to do gambling in New York, what did he do? He enlisted the help of his longtime buddy, Roger Stone. Yes, that Roger Stone. So in 2000, there's Roger Stone, there's Donald Trump, and what do? They create a shell company, which is a fake company. It's just a company name called the New York Institute for Law and Society. And what does Trump do? He secretly funds this shell company to the tune of over $150,000 so they can run ads opposing the casinos. And not only do they oppose the casinos, they do it using Trump's trademark bigotry. by claiming the Native Americans, and I'm not exaggerating, he said they will bring drugs and crime. Sound familiar? Donald Trump has been using drugs and crime as an attack long before he said about Mexicans when he came down the escalator. Long before immigrants he's trying to keep out of the country. He used that exact same argument literally against Native Americans in their ads. Literally said they're going to be drugs and crime. That's his go-to. Now, by doing this secret funding of a corporation, he violated New York State lobbying commission laws. He could have been referred out for criminal prosecution, but he wasn't. Why? Because Donald Trump agreed to pay the highest fine in the history of the New York State lobbying commission at that time. $250,000. Him and Roger Stone, but he paid it. And when I said earlier, it's relevant that Donald Trump ran that entire charity himself to understanding who ran it with Michael Cohen and paying off the women. Was Donald Trump involved or not? Well, that charity would say yes. But even this incident with the lobbying commission says yes. Roger Stone was deposed by the New York State Lobbying Commission. Under oath, under threat of perjury, he said, point blank, on record, everything he did was approved by Donald Trump. For example, this was Stone's words, a copy of the ad blaming the Native Americans for bringing drug dealing to New York has writing on it that reads, Roger, do it, Donald. Literally, that was an exhibit in the deposition. There is Donald Trump's handwriting. This ad about drug dealing in New York in 2000, that Native Americans bring drugs, and Roger, do it, Donald. Every single thing Donald Trump controlled and signed off when he's involved in these criminal activities. And Stone testified the only reason this institute existed was to hide from the public the involvement of one person, Donald J. Trump. The shell company there is the same as the shell company now with Michael Cohen, where he formed two shell companies, and Donald Trump secretly funded them to pay hush money to two women so that the world would not know he was paying them to silence them before the election. He did the same thing in 2000. And every single one in 2000 here and with the charity, Donald Trump ran it all. He knew everything. So please do not tell me that Donald Trump did not know that Michael Cohen was going to pay these women off. Donald Trump's history and his record and his MO is he controls us. He knows everything. And we might think he's a moron and an idiot on some days. I say no, diabolical criminal mind who understands these things. And this is another reason we need the tax returns of the Trump Corporation. When the Democrats take over January 3rd, we're going to get that right away. So look, this is where we are now. We're going to talk to Laura Coates in the third hour about Michael Flynn. I'm happy to take phone calls. It was remarkable what we heard in court today. If you didn't see it, we'll go through it later. But if you want to talk about that, but you're my guest right to the top of the hour, 866-997-4748, 866-997-4748. Be right back after this. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.